What's up, Duval? It's your favorite Jaguar, Bucky Brooks, and this is Bleav in Jags, a podcast dedicated to all things Jacksonville Jaguars. And we have some football that has been played over the course of the weekend. The Jaguars knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs 26-13 in the preseason opener. We're going to talk all about it, some things that stood out to me, how excited I am after watching this team. It's one thing to watch them in OTAs and practices and training camp. It's another thing to watch them in game action. And even though preseason games don't count, they certainly matter. And I think there are some positive things to take away from that performance. But before we get into that, let's pay off our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from UFC to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while games are being played. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head over to the website today, get in on the action, use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit of up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. And guys, the game started on Saturday night in Everbank. It was a nice little atmosphere. It was great to see the defending or back-to-back world champions come into the building with Pat Mahomes and company. As we said on the last podcast, we thought this would be a great test because anytime you have defending champs come in, it's a measuring stick. You get a chance to see what the defending champs look like. You get a chance to see what your team looks like in comparison to what is regarded as the best team in football. And you're able to make corrections and assessments based on, hey, if this is the standard, here's where we are, here's where we need to go to be a team that compete like they did last season. And so my first takeaway in terms of the game, I just love the energy and enthusiasm that this team plays with. There is a business-like aura around the team, but there's also this energy and electricity around the team where they feel like they're going to be a really, really good team. And I know coming off of last year's, I would say, disappointing year where the team finished 9-8, there was a lot of optimism going into the year. Super Bowl aspirations and conversations jumped out to an 8-3 start to only finish with a 1-5 conclusion. People are not really to buy into this team yet, and I'm okay with it. And I think with more time and more evidence, I think more people would jump on the bandwagon because to me, when I look at this team, I think they're built the right way. I think they have the ingredients to be a team that gets better and better down the stretch. And they're not only good enough to qualify for postseason, but I think they can do some damage when they get into postseason. But there's a long time between now and then, a lot of games to be played. But I would say the preseason opener gave us a little taste of what this team could be. When I think about what this team could be and what they showed on Saturday night, I would say offensively, they were efficient, they were effective. We saw the big play reintroduced to the offense. We saw a franchise quarterback that was moving and grooving quickly in rhythm. We saw playmakers all around begin to contribute. We talked about the deep ball being incorporated into the mix. Love that. On the ground, ran the ball effectively. Tank Bigsby showed up like you expected him to last year when we were really enthusiastic and optimistic about what he would bring as a pick that was supposed to really contribute right away behind Travis Etienne. We like that. Defensively, fast, physical, made plays, got after it. The scheme was simple, but man, they played it really, really well after they settled in. And I saw big hits. I saw solid tackling. I saw active guys attacking the ball. And overall, look, man, I think Doug Peterson, when they looked at the tape, I think they would come away really impressed with the effort, the execution, and just the overall feel of the team. There's some things to correct, but I would say so far so good for a debut performance. So what I want to do is I just want to talk about, I have like 4 or 5 things that kind of stood out that I want to talk about and touch on and just give my general takes on the game. First and foremost, man, the game is always about the quarterback. And I'm going to say this, Trevor Lawrence was moving and grooving. He was in rhythm, did a really good job getting this team up and going. He was aided by the big kickoff return, right? Like Parker Washington puts the ball down in the red zone. Didn't take them long to make a couple plays, little pop pass, you see Luke Farrell, then they come back and they hit a little angle route to Travis Etienne for 6. And what I loved about both of those plays early, the bootleg was playing off of the running game that you really want to establish to make people defend that. Not necessarily because you want to be a ground and pound team, but you want to use that threat of the running game to create big play opportunities in the passing game. Check that off the box. In the red zone, last year, this team struggled, didn't really put 7s up, had to settle for a lot of 3s. And a lot of that was due to inefficiency in the passing game inside the 10-yard line. Eliminated that, ran a quick angle route. Travis Etienne nodded on Drew Tranquil, got inside, hit him in the strike zone, touchdown for the Jaguars. You love that. I love the sequence of plays. I love the execution. It just felt right. Come back next year, you see Gabe Davis dig route. We see some things that you just like seeing from this offense in terms of being able to work certain areas of the field. And I've said this, and I'm on record saying Trevor Lawrence is at his best when he works the inside part of the field, meaning when he works inside the numbers, that's when this offense is at its best. We saw the first year with Doug Peterson, 2022. They really killed people with a lot of crossing routes at multiple layers, short, intermediate. They did it, and we saw some of those things kind of reintroduced in the offense. It's preseason, but you could tell that 20-yard dig route to Gabe Davis, that's a big part of what they would like to do. Want to see them continue to expand on that with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram getting in on the action. Love that. Let me also say this. Yeah, CJ Beathard played, and he did a solid job right now as the backup quarterback. But the guy that I'm really excited about is Mac Jones. And Mac Jones, former first-round pick, played with the 2s and 3s, played in the later stages of the game. And it's not really fair to put Mac Jones in with him because this is a guy that's a Pro Bowl player, a guy that has played a lot of games in the league as a starter. Pick the Kansas City Chiefs apart. He was good. He was decisive. He was in rhythm. To me, it's an obvious difference between Mac Jones and CJ Beathard in terms of the arm talent and arm strength. Mac Jones was 9 for 11, 98 yards. And I'll say this, he missed a layup in the corner of the end zone that really capped it off with a touchdown. He just was a little outstretched on a corner route that if he had it back, I'm sure he would teardrop that thing in and finish the game the way that he wanted to. But Mac Jones is legit, and Mac Jones is, I would say, maybe the most important piece of the Jaguars puzzle because if anything happens to Trevor Lawrence, if he is behind Trevor Lawrence as the number 2, he can go in and win games. There's a confidence about him winning games that I can say permeates the building. They believe that this guy can start games, and if he's with the Jaguars long-term, he's going to be a valuable commodity as a backup quarterback because he is talented enough to win games and play at a high level in this offense, and the scheme fits his talents. So really good to see him get off to a good start, 9 for 11, being able to play the way that he played with the offense. Love it. So that's a really good thing. So the quarterback's moving and grooving. That's number 1. 2, the big play specialists showed up and they showed out. The entire offseason, the Jaguars have talked about adding the big play element to the offense as a part that was missing last season. Couldn't push the ball down the field, couldn't make the explosive plays. And really watching their offense play last year was kind of like watching old men play half-court basketball at the YMCA. Not a lot of movement, not a lot of big plays, not a lot of three-point shots, just kind of stuck in the muck last year. Well, that won't happen this year. The big play players that were brought in all showed up. And so Gabe Davis showing up with a 20-plus yard catch. Talk about someone who averaged over 16 yards per catch during his career at Buffalo in 4 seasons. Brian Thomas Jr., 1 catch, 41 yards, showing up, making the impact that he made, very similar during his time at LSU when he had 17 touchdowns and averaged like 17 yards a pop his final season. Devin Duvernay catching a 35-yard touchdown. He has been a standout returner in this league, earned all-pro status, but he's a fast playmaker who might not have gotten as many opportunities as Baltimore as his talent would have suggested. Coming to Jacksonville, maybe as the 4th wide receiver, he'll get more opportunities to make plays on the perimeter. He is an X factor. And then this isn't a new player, but this is an older player. But Parker Washington, that big kickoff return. We'll talk more about him when I talk about the young guys developing. But what you saw, explosive plays from the Jaguars. And what happens and why it's so important, it's so hard to drive the ball the length of the field. When you just think about the odds of driving the ball the length of the field, 80 yards on 5 and 6 yard passes and runs, it's hard to string together 12 and 13 play drives. When you have an explosive play, a chunk play, 20 plus yards in the drive, the odds go up in terms of your opportunity to score. When you think about the explosive plays that we saw in the perimeter, in the passing game, you saw Gabe Davis have a big play. You saw Brian Thomas Jr. have a big play. Devin Duvernay had a big play. That was a touchdown. All of those things matter. And for the complement, I would say the complementary players around the two best players in the passing game, Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk, for those guys to stand up and make plays, it will change the way opponents defend the Jaguars, and it will make this offense more potent, more explosive, more dynamic, and it'll be more fun to watch because we will see the big play reintroduced into the playbook, into the game plan, and that is going to result in more scoring, and more scoring is going to make life easier for a defense that I Bleav has an opportunity to be pretty good this season. Third thing that stood out to me, and one of the things that I think everyone should be excited about, when the Jaguars made the commitment to pay their core players. So in thinking about building the team, you always want to pay your core. You always want to commit to the OKGs. And OKGs is an acronym for our kind of guys. The Jaguars have a type that they're looking for. Doug Peterson had talked about like good football players with good character, smart, tough, passionate about the game, productive in big moments. They handle the pressure, all of those guys. So you think about Trevor Lawrence, Josh Hines Allen, Tyson Campbell. The other guys, Evan Ingram, who was paid last year, Christian Kirk will certainly get paid down the line. When you have a core that's commanding significant money, you need young draft picks to play well and to, I would say, exceed expectations as a highly touted draft pick. When I looked on Saturday night, those guys showed up, and they showed up in a major way. Tank Bigsby, not only the rushing yards in terms of being very, very effective running between the tackles, giving them that physical element and the force. We saw him run it 3 times for 28 yards, but the way he popped off that 19-yard run, you could see the explosiveness from Bigsby. You also saw from Bigsby in the return game. He's one of the guys that kind of showed up in the return game because he had that big dynamic return off of safety where he had a 45-yard gain. Like, think about that. Everyone is worried about the new kickoff rules and all that other stuff. Tank Bigsby made them pay with a 45-yard run following the safety that put the ball in, at the opponent's territory and set them up for an opportunity to eventually be able to score. Parker Washington showing up also in the kicking game in a variety of ways. We saw the 73-yard kickoff return that really set them up. It got the juice going, got the crowd going. We saw that right away. He broke tackles. We saw the explosiveness. We saw the side-to-side quickness, jump cutting, scooting through. A lot of the things that people have been talking about throughout the offseason in terms of, hey, man, he's been killing it during the offseason program. OTAs, he's showing up. There's always this tend to be like, hey, is he going to be one of those spring stars that it doesn't translate? Well, based on how he played on Saturday night, man, he's ready to have a big season. And the funny thing is, don't really know what role that could be for him yet. You have Duvernay, who's already established as a returner. You have Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. To go with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. So you think about 11 personnel. Those are your top 3. How does he get in the mix? I think the one thing, and Trevor had talked about this, he talked about the depth of the wide receiver core and being able to mix and match the combination in event of injury or matchups. Have to have more guys that are ready to play. In his second season, Parker Washington is more ready to play because the preparation is better. He knows what he's doing. More importantly, he's settled in, and the plays that he's beginning to make only going to give the coaches more confidence to be able to put him on the field. So I love that. I love seeing that. I'm excited about that part of it. On the defense side of the ball, Christian Braswell showing up. And I know it's going to be weird to talk about the play that he made that didn't count because they took the strip, scoop, and score off the board. And I know on that play, he got beat on the crossing route. But what I will say is the way that he got beat, fell to the ground, stumbled, gets up, tracks the receiver down, not only tracks him down, punches the ball out, takes the ball away, and then it goes and scores. Anyone who has been to training camp practices has seen the emphasis that the Jaguars have put on taking the ball away, effort to finish, and then just making the plays that are there to be made. In that one play, you saw all of the things that has been emphasized on the practice field. I saw him get up off the ground. I saw him finish. I saw when he finished, he came with the intention to see if he could take the ball away. Then he took it away. And the number one thing in his mind was to go score. from a defensive standpoint, man, that's what you want from your young guys. You want to see them eagerly attacking the ball. You want to see them give relentless effort, no matter the circumstance, to continue to fight and compete. Saw all of those things. So look, hats off to him, and really hats off to the young guys, because all of those young guys that we talk about, those second and third year players, you love it. Chad Muma also showed up in the running game in terms of making tackles, making plays, coming downhill, playing a variety of spots. Sam, Mike linebacker, him being productive. When we think about this team, the stars will carry the team to a certain point, but it's the role players stepping up that can help get them over the threshold. Seeing a handful of second and third year players play well, make plays, optimistic that this team is headed in the right direction. So I love that. Fourth thing that stood out to me when I think about the observations, man, this defense is as advertised. And what I mean by that is there's been a lot of conversation in the offseason about Ryan Nielsen's defensive strategy and what he wants to do with this team. We've heard this team talk about playing fast, playing physical, being relentless in their pursuit of the ball, being obsessed with turning the ball over. Well, when you looked at the game, if that didn't stand out to you, I don't know what game you were looking at, because I saw all of those things. Defense had 5 sacks, did a really good job of running to the ball, getting after the quarterback, knocking them around, doing things that you love to see from your defense. You saw them kind of dictate the terms, get after it, make life very, very miserable for the quarterbacks in the pocket. Now, I will say this. The Kansas City Chiefs did a really good job. They completed 22 of their 27 attempts. That is great. But when you have 5 sacks, man, and you are able to disrupt the rhythm and the timing of the passing game, it bodes well for you. When you're able to kind of get around it and make it happen and create the pressure, that the persistent pressure that you saw from the Jaguars defense, to me, you're playing the right way. But it even goes beyond those numbers where we talk about the 5 sacks and just the disruptive plays that they made. I would say just the style of play. One of the things that Ryan Nielsen had talked about, he talked about simplifying the defense and really making it very easy for the players to play fast. It's very reminiscent to the way that Gus Bradley had the team playing back in 2017. Not comparing those teams. I don't know if this team will be like that team was when it came to being a defensive juggernaut, but I would say the similarities are in simple scheme that allows you to spend most of your time in practice working on technique, coaching effort, making sure guys play fast. When they don't have to think, they can go and jump into attack mode, and it's better for everybody involved. And watching the scheme from the press box, I can tell you, it was simple with subtle complexities that threw off the defense, meaning every time they lined up in what I would call a quarter shell, 2 high safeties, press corners, taking away the easy layups and the easy throws. And then they changed the picture after the snap. Sometimes they would stay in what I would call a 2-man defense where they would play 2 high safeties. They would trail up underneath, take away the underneath throws, while also eliminating the big throws, makes life very, very tough for the quarterback to fit in the tight windows. They also would play some traditional man-free coverage with various guys kind of dropping into the hole as the lurk or the rat. That's what they call it. They call it one rat. They did it a few different times. Sometimes it was a guy dropping from deep in the sky, the safety. Sometimes it was a linebacker hanging over the middle. But regardless, they were able to mix in some 2-man with some man-free that really challenged the quarterbacks to identify what was going on. And then they played some traditional zone when they had him in favorable position. All of that stuff was nice. And what I liked about it is when they mixed those things with some 5-man pressures that were simple in design, but allowed the guys to play fast and just focus on effort. We saw the quarterback get hit. We saw him get hit a ton. We saw them make plays and kind of get after it. Loved it. And as they continue to build on that, we're going to see them continue to commit to simplicity, and they're just going to keep it simple. And if they keep it simple, they're going to have a lot of success because their talent is good enough to give them a chance. And then when you think about Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen being able to get up to quarterback, the good things are going to happen. I just loved what I saw from the defense. And I liked what I saw from the young guys that were playing in the defense. They didn't look overwhelmed. They looked very comfortable. And after a shaky drive early, they settled in and they really controlled the game from the middle of the first quarter on. Yes, there were some leaky situations where the Chiefs were able to move. But when you looked at the game, the Jaguars are in complete control of the game. And so that's positive. Even though it's a preseason game and everyone goes into it with different agendas, the fact that they dominated and they were so comfortable in this game is a testament to Ryan Nielsen and the job his staff has done to get this team up and going. The test will happen this week against Tampa Bay Buccaneers in practice and then in the preseason game. But so far, so good for the way the defense looked. And then I'm going to say this, my final observation, and one of the things that should not be underestimated, and we'll look at this acquisition as maybe one of the more critical additions to the team, and that's Cam Little, the kicker from Arkansas. Just came in and drilled it. He was money. I mean, just money, money, money. And if you've been around the team the last couple of years, you have seen the issues that this team has had when it comes to finding a nails kicker. They just have not been able to get the consistency from the place kicking position to feel good about, making distance kicks and gambling on the kicker to win games where other teams have been able to do it. Think about Baltimore and what they've been able to do with Justin Tucker for so long. They've been able to rely on him. Well, Cam Little, 3 for 4, knockdown kicks in the 47-yard range. And the miss that he had is 62 yards. Was like the distance was there. He just was off a little bit. For him to nail 3 or 4, one from inside that 30 to 39 range, 2 in the 40 range. You love that. He missed a distance kick, but that is fine. If he can continue to be what he has been thus far throughout camp, meaning the swaggy place kicker that consistently knocks it through when he gets his opportunity, man, you can be excited about it. It puts more points on the board. And being able to put points on the board whenever you reach the 35-yard line, that is a huge skill. And I know a lot of people like to go for it on 4th down, but if you can tell me that you're assured of getting points every time your team reaches the 35-yard line, it shrinks the field and it makes life easier for the play caller. Cam Little's addition is, man, it's going to pay off significantly, pay major dividends for the Jaguars as they continue to get ready for the season. So quickly, that was just kind of my take on the first preseason game. You don't want to overdo it and make more of it than you need to, but I would say it's a nice starting point. It is also an opportunity where you're going to see the depth chart change, I would say probably significantly after the first game. Coaches tend to, I would say, overreact to like first performances, and guys who play well are going to get more opportunities in weeks 2 and 3 in the preseason. Guys who didn't play well, they're going to find themselves at the bottom of the chart, and now they're scuffling, trying to get back into the conversation and get back into the rotation. The joint practices this week will have significant sway on, some of the roster spots that are up for grabs. It'll be a controlled environment, so you see the starters get a lot of reps and a lot of work there. I wouldn't anticipate them playing much, if at all, during the second preseason game. And that second preseason game will kind of be the deciding factor for a bunch of the bubble guys as they're playing for opportunities to be on this Jaguars roster. But coming off of that first game, Doug Peterson, those guys should feel good about the right direction, with the direction that the team is headed in. They should feel good about the standards that are in place, because when you heard the guys talk, they repeatedly talked about the standard and what that is in terms of playing hard, being prepared, the professionalism that they expect. It sounds like the message is resonating with the team, and it's not only in the words that they're repeating, but how they're playing. And if you're Doug Peterson, if you're Trent Baalke, you certainly like the direction that the team is going to training camp. But it means nothing if you don't have another good week of practice this week and a good performance in these joint workouts against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so until then, we'll talk about it. I'll tap in. I'll kind of get some intel from my birdies down there on the ground about the joint practices. And I will share some of that information with you guys later in the week on our second podcast, Wednesday or Thursday, which should be fun. But until then, make sure you rate, review, subscribe to Bleav in Jaguars. The podcast is kind of growing. I love the community. I love seeing you guys, and I love the feedback that I'm getting. I just think it's so cool to kind of be connected to the team that I really enjoyed playing for, had my most success, and I get a chance to represent in a variety of ways. So it's been cool to tap in to the Duval community in that way. Make sure you continue to tap into my colleagues at Bleav Network. See some of the cool stuff we're doing on YouTube, on Fubo. Tap in and make sure you subscribe to some of the podcasts wherever you get your favorite podcasts as we continue to grow this out and bring you the best football content that is out there. Until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks. This is Bleav in Jaguars. I will see you soon.